Welcome back to This Week in Horror, October 13th through the 19th. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Eugene.
I'm Alex.
I'm JL.
Man, we actually talked about some heavy stuff last week, too. So if you get a chance, go ahead and catch up on the last one. We talked about some other stuff, and then we got a packed week for this episode, and let's get into it.
All right, start the week off on Friday the 13th, appropriately. That is October 13th, 1989. Ironically, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers.
On Friday, they did that on purpose.
God, yeah. They were so tight in that they were just dropping them left and right. We're in the 5th Halloween, 8th Friday the 13th movie, which was that whole...
So Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers went head-to-head with Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan.
Was just the whole thing, and just the boat, and oh my god.
Which tells you...
Because everyone knows that Crystal Lake has an access port to the Atlantic Ocean, which feeds back into New York City.
I'm just going to stow away on this ship that is on a lake. Yeah. So that movie, the Friday the 13th, that came out July of that year, and then Halloween 5 dropped on Friday the 13th of October that year. So it's kind of a spit in your face, and it actually ended up being like a really good movie with the Jamie Floyd character in that. But there were so many similarities. The cool thing about 5 that I liked was like the Jamie Lloyd character played 3 of the movies in Halloween, and then you look at the Friday the 13th movies, and then you got Tommy in like 3 of those movies in the same time. They're like the same age. They're like the same character in both movies. So like Halloween 5 is just kind of taking Friday the 13th and be like, hey, watch this. We're going to do it just a little better every time.
Because you actually get like a really good performance from Daniel Harris.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a fan of kid actors, and I think like most of the time you see child actors and they're pretty bad kind of thing, but like she's convincing, and like you forget that you're watching an actual
really plays into the mental health.
Well, Danielle, she's got a very innocent look. And I think responded very, very well to what was going on as a child would. I thought that she was really in touch with it. And one of the better parts, I think, is probably the reason why Rob Zombie brought her back for the remake, for his remake.
Oh yeah, she has. She's in one of my favorite moments in the first remake where Michael grabs her, right? And the door opens up. It's like a wide shot, and the door opens up, and she like kind of runs out for a second, and Michael grabs her and pulls her back in, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of shot, right? And the door closes.
Oh yeah.
And it holds that shot long enough, like that's it, the end, no more screaming, and then all of a sudden, boom! She punches him in the face and keeps running.
Oh no!
I love that moment in the new one.
No, it was good.
She's like, motherfucker, I'm a scream queen. I don't think so. I'm coming back for the sequel, bitch.
Fun fact, my life began right around the time that movie came out.
Oh Lord, here we go.
Me and my girlfriend.
We missed you on the last one.
Me and my girlfriend were just talking about having a baby in June, and so we were doing the math, and so it had to be right around the beginning of October to get it all set up right. I was thinking about it when I was looking into the date of this movie, because that would have been when I was conceived. So while you guys were watching this movie in theaters, I was just kind of, developing as an embryo.
Because I was 9.
It would have been right around the time you would have seen it.
Came out.
It's funny because I'm like perfectly in between both y'all too, because I was 5.
Spread out.
So speaking of which, there is because you just reminded me, Halloween 5, Revenge of Michael Myers came out October 13th, 1989. It was a Friday the 13th. went head to head against Friday the 13th Part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan. Second one to star Kane Hodder as who I thought was the Friday the 13th Part 7 was fucking amazing. Brilliant goddamn film. One of the best Fridays. So those two, but you just reminded me that on YouTube there's this one short film where it was Jason versus Michael. And while that would seem like just a silly fucking fight, the Battle of the Mute Brutes, but it actually is exceptionally well done. With lighting, cinematography, the choreography was actually pretty decent. And you get to see these two guys fuck each other up pretty solidly because they could take hella damage. So, it's really, really enjoyable. I can't remember the title of it. How the two of them basically, Michael winds up at Crystal Lake. There was no exposition. There's no need to explain anything.
No one cares. He's there. Action.
Get Michael in the situation. Let the two of them scrap. So we don't need to do a Freddy versus Jason and all this bullshit exposition trying to get them together. So, but it was actually really, really entertaining. And anybody who's a fan of those who hasn't seen that little short should definitely check that out if they can find it. Because the fight, you just skip all the shit with the teenagers getting killed, skip all that. That was dumb, but definitely jump straight to the fight between the two of them is actually really entertaining. Because the costuming was magnificent. Jason looked straight out of Part 7. The Halloween mask for Michael was fantastic. They got two huge motherfuckers to play these guys. And the area they shot looked like straight out of Friday the 13th Part 6. It looked like Camp Crystal Lake.
Yeah, actually, I saw it a couple years ago, and the thing is, or I guess maybe a year ago, and like you can tell, like they were passionate about it. They really put forth the effort into it, and it's really well done.
So these two cats going head to head. So, but Halloween 5 was decent. I did. It was definitely a step above 6. 6 was god fucking awful.
It's kind of like the transition because like they went into production with an incomplete script and a little bit of it shows, and it's kind of like they kind of started putting the foundation for 6 because you start seeing the symbol that had like the man in black that they used to fill plot holes, kind of
the
thing
whole
like
man
that.
in black,
and we never see him again.
And it was odd. I think it seemed very much because 4 was I thought 4 was well plotted out, bringing in his niece.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that the addition of the character was nice. It was kind of like trying to recapture after the abysmal Halloween 3, which was a valiant but failed attempt to try and serialize the brand. Because I know that Carpenter and his wife Deborah didn't want to continue on after 2. And so they tried to do the serialization thing where they would do like a Halloween movie every year, and it would be under the Halloween brand, but every year would be a different story. And so that's why Halloween 3 Season of the Witch has all those, it is this with the masks and everything, the costumes that turn the kids evil and shit. And so when that failed abysmally, people wanted Michael. So they brought back, Halloween 4, Return of Michael Myers, and that was well plotted out. I thought that was really, really smart. And I think they, with the success of that, and Danielle Harris turning in a fantastic performance, for being so young, they just wanted to kind of capitalize on and bring it along. So, but there were third act problems, and it's like oh, we want to do this, and they jumped so fast that they didn't know how to continue it. And so it was kind of like, oh, well, we got this. So we got Michael, we got the girl coming back. He's coming back. It's his, the revenge. He didn't get to kill the first film, and then they went in with a premise and a solid, first 2 acts, but didn't really know how to close it out. And I think somewhere in there, someone probably jumped in there and was like, oh, let's bring in the whole satanic thing, and he's supernatural and souped up by the devil and shit. And it was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Just too much leather.
Because it felt very rushed and forced. It's just kind of like, we need a way to end this. And it's like, oh, let's go ahead and end it this way. And this will help set us up a 6. And it was like, yeah, we didn't need to do that at all.
I did like the fact that they kind of retconned at the end of 4 where Jamie has a mask on and is like the killer. She's like holding a knife.
She's
and
got the scissors
in the clown outfit.
She's holding a pair
the
of scissors.
Yeah, the
that was
scissors part.
like a huge thing that stuck out in my head when I saw it when I was younger. Was her standing like in that doorway with the scissors in her hand in that clown costume. But that was like
Yeah,
that was
and
at 6, right? Or no, that was at the end of 4.
yeah, that was at the end of 4 because I never
That was the end of 4.
I never liked that because I liked her like innocence and it made me like root for her and stuff like that. And I like how in 5 that pretty much was like, oh, that's just a bad dream. Don't worry about it.
Now, I remind me because I'm pretty sure that with that kind of imagery, with a shot like that, because Friday the 13th and Halloween are going head to head, that may have been a riff off of the kind of like the plot lines in Friday the 13th,
Tommy's holding a knife.
Where Tommy, it was suggested that Tommy might be the killer. You know, like Tommy might be the killer. Tommy's going crazy. Tommy's obsessed with masks
Jason.
and shit.
And then Jamie
is becoming
in
the new
Halloween
Jason,
5,
until
becoming Michael Myers. It's like the same storyline.
So, but the world is not ready for a female Michael.
Hasn't caught on just yet. Give it up.
Well, cool Michael Myers, but we have another titan of horror. But this was an interesting one because in October 14th in 1994, so Wes Craven came out and went meta with Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Ooh.
And he brought back Robert Englund for the film, but this movie, well, he went super, super meta with the whole idea of Freddy being this demon that has to be contained by retelling the story over and over and over again. And so by telling the story, it keeps kind of like the genie in the bottle. And then when the studios decided to not make any more Nightmare films, or Robert Englund was like, I'm not going to do it, wasn't going to sign on and do it anymore. Then the demon kind of gets released, and then all this shit's supposed to be happening in real life. They brought back Heather Langenkamp for it. Robert Englund played himself, played Freddy, and Wes Craven, was in it as well. So it was, the super, super meta film, which I think, and this is an interesting idea because Wes was behind, produced Scream, was behind the Scream franchise, which was also super meta. So this one actually came out 2 years before that. So when Wes decided to go down the meta train as far as meta horror goes, and so I thought a smart little film. Kind of dropped the ball in the third act, but it was nice to see Wes try to realize that the version of Freddy Krueger that we got in New Nightmare was Wes's original idea for the character. That what we saw in the first, 6 films, all the way up from Nightmare on Elm Street, all the way up through Freddy's Dead, Final Nightmare, is that was all kind of like the studio behind it, but Wes's original intention was to make him actually really intimidating, really scary, more organic with the glove, and like that, with blades coming straight out of his hands and shit like that. And while it was entertaining to see kind of a new spin on it, and it looked like Robert Englund was having fun in the role, because Robert Englund is meant to be Freddy Krueger. Of course. So, not a bad film. Not bad. I think it dropped the ball in the third act. The whole going into like the dream dimension or his hell dimension or like this. I don't know. It got silly. But that scene in the hospital when he kills the babysitter and the kid can see him but no one else can.
Yeah,
was a pretty intense scene when he grabs her and he's coming up the wall and he's dragging her up the wall and everything. That was pretty slickly done. So, and
it's always kind of creepy of being in a situation where he's like a character can see the villain but no one else can, kind of thing. I've always just loved how it plays out.
Yeah, and the little kid they got to play him, to play the little kid. Oh, for the life of me, I can't remember his name, but I believe he was Gage in the original Pet Sematary.
Oh,
and because that kid can emote
have you seen
like
the
no
new
other.
Pet Sematary?
I have seen the new Pet Sematary.
So I watched like the first,
seen the new Pet Sematary.
25, 30 minutes of it, and then I ended up getting sidetracked by something and I never got to finish it. Was it any good? Like, I watched up until, we'll say, that fateful moment.
I thought While Stephen King would disagree with me, Stephen King liked the changes that were made. As he said in some interview somewhere, that he dug the differentiation from the original, from the first one like that, to the new one, to this remake. I felt the remake overall, while it was entertaining, it was unnecessary. It's not something that needed to be made. That this was kind of a cash grab, just kind of like, because part one had already come out, and with the new technology and everything, it was like, ooh, we can start doing the Stephen King adaptations now that we can do them. We have the money to do it. So they did The Mist. Frank Darabont kind of kicked it off, and then he said, "Hey, it's okay to change things a little bit." Like he changed the ending of The Mist, and then Dark Tower came out, which was fucking abysmal. I was so upset by that because I love that. Well, I love the first 5 books. The last 2 really pissed me off, but that kind of kicked off the trend. And while Pet Sematary was entertaining, there were a couple of pitfalls. Overall, I don't think it needed to be done. I thought John Lithgow was good as Judd, but he's no Fred Gwynne. Because Fred Gwynne was an amazing actor and known for more comedic roles. And then he turned around and he turned this performance in Pet Sematary. And this, I believe that was shortly before he passed away. And he was fantastic at that. So I kept thinking, God, I want to see Fred Gwynne. John Lithgow is good, and I'm a fan of John Lithgow, but I was like, oh, this is Fred Gwynn's role. And then I just kept feeling like the movie kept making me want to go see the original.
Yeah,
because the original was so brilliant.
And that's kind of how I felt about it too. Is that there wasn't really a purpose of it, because if you look at like comparative to it, the original It that came out with Tim Curry was like a TV miniseries. So it would have to be scaled back so much, and we see his teeth, or a beam of light or something like that, and that was really like all it could do. So when you get the It Chapter 1, Chapter 2 comes out, this is like the first true like movie version of It. Whereas with Pet Sematary, we already have a movie version of Pet Sematary. You just update it's Pet Sematary remastered. Like that's it.
And since Alex, you were asking how it was, I said it was entertaining, but the switcheroo with the little girl and Gage, the little boy, the switch on that was not necessary. I don't know if you got to that point, because obviously in the first one, the little boy dies, Gage dies, and Ellie goes, and she's the one who's having psychic visions of what's going on. But they switched those two
Ellie
roles.
Got smoked by
and
the
it was
truck.
Ellie who got hit by the truck, and it was Gage who was having dreams about it. But the problem is, the reason I didn't like that is because when you give it to the little boy, and because they kept the ages the same, Gage is too young to express like how he's feeling about these dreams, so like really express his emotional state. Whereas it's so effective in the book, and it's so effective in the first film, is because Ellie can actually communicate what she's seeing in her dreams. Even though she doesn't understand what she's saying, she can communicate them effectively. And that part was missing because the little girl was so vital in moving into the third act of the film. And so I thought the switch was unnecessary. They did it to be shocking. I thought that was unnecessary. And then, of course, everyone dies and becomes zombies in the end. I thought, I was like, okay, so we're going to end on a fucking down note. So I was like, but because at the end of the first Pet Sematary, there was a sense of resolution, resolution. But in this one, it opens up. It's like, oh, so this is how the zombie apocalypse begins. Because they're zombies, but they can think. They can think, they have purpose, they have motive, and they can briefly, you look at them, you don't see zombie initially. So it's like, okay, so this is how the zombie apocalypse begins. It was like, it just went into a way I just thought was unnecessary. But, overall, it's just not a terrible film. An entertaining watch, it'll just make you pine for the original.
Oh, yeah.
Which, seeing, with Wes Craven's New Nightmare, seeing Freddy Krueger, or, Freddy Krueger in that more serious, non-comical sense, because we get so used to Freddy's one-liners and quippy ways of killing people in their dreams, Dream Warriors being one of my absolute favorites of the entire franchise, but seeing that, it just kind of made me pine for the funny Robert Englund. You know, it's like, you're gonna die horrible, and it's gonna be bad, but we're gonna fucking laugh.
We're gonna have a great
while
time.
he's doing it, because the shit is funny as hell. We're gonna have a great time while we do it. And in this one, this Freddy was mean. He was cold as ice, and there were no quippy one-liners, just straight murderous. So it was an interesting twist, you know, see Wes Craven go meta before everyone else was going meta, to kind of kick that train off, which I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah, because he kind of starts setting up for like Scream and stuff like that, which shows how much he understood the genre. Because I've always believed Wes Craven has understood horror on a level that just especially most filmmakers don't.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of a whole bunch of murder.
Segue.
and another horror master.
So we're going October 15th, 1981. Bruce Campbell takes some of his friends out to the woods and just kills all of them. No, this is the 1981 The Evil Dead with Bruce Campbell as Ash, and by far it's probably the best like low budget film from that era, in my opinion. Just that style and the fact that they just remade this into a TV show with Bruce Campbell, just going back to the exact same style, just kind of tells you that it was an iconic movie from that era, for sure. But
the low production value, they just made it work.
It was low production,
like,
high gore, and it was just great. It was so gory.
Oh, I thought it was brilliant. There's a superb documentary out about that. I think one of the best parts of it, other than when they're talking about the special effects and the makeup and how it was just this roughshod stuff that they pretty much just threw all over the actors, and it was just nightmarish. But my favorite part of it was the cabin, when they're talking about the cabin itself, and how when they first found the cabin, and they go out there to shoot, and they're shooting predominantly at night, and it's freezing cold out there. And when they first found the cabin was wide open to the elements. So there was like, I think, no back wall to it, and the cabin was sitting in the middle of what had become kind of like a livestock trail. So cows had been moving through the cabin. So when they first found the cabin, it had no back wall. It was completely open to the elements, and it was full of cow shit. And so Raimi had the actors, when the actors first showed up, to start doing pre-shoots, the first thing they had to do was they had to clean out the cabin. So he's got his actors, who I think were being either paid nothing or a pittance, and they're like, he has them shoveling cow shit to get the thing out legit. Of there.
It's a real abandoned cabin. It's a for real abandoned cabin. That was the coolest part. That whole thing wasn't like staged. That's just kind of how they found it.
And to think the brilliance of that movie is, it goes up there with it's not a horror film, but like with Clerks, how a director has a vision, and by any means necessary, like Kevin Smith had the vision for Clerks, and he maxed out like 10, 12 credit cards to make that movie happen on a budget of $25,000. And then, of course, Sam Raimi and his friend, Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell went out there, and they were going to make this goddamn movie by hook or by crook, and kick the shit out of his actors. And it would, from all stories that you can hear about it, it was merciless and just brutal shooting the film. But they cranked it out by any means necessary, and kicked off a franchise that has endured since '81 for over 30 years.
We talk about like true passion projects, because so many times in film, a studio buy rights to property and they'll hire some, producer and director, and they'll just make it out, versus like that Kevin Smith, Quentin Tarantino, where he did Reservoir Dogs, and Sam Raimi here is like, no, I wrote this, I will do anything to make it work, no matter how hard that we have to fight to get through. If we got to shovel cow shit, we're going to shovel cow shit to make this film.
They had, so I was doing some reading on it, just looking into the whole thing. And so Bruce Campbell apparently got hit in the face by one of the cameramen who had slipped while filming. And it hit him in the face with the camera and knocked some of his teeth out. And they would talk about how Bruce Campbell had to be trucked home in the back of a pickup every day because he was covered from head to toe in corn syrup.
Oh, damn.
How he had a shirt that he had let dry by the fire, and it got so crusty that when he tried to put it on, it broke. Like, it was just a rough situation. There was another little tidbit that I read about when they were filming the scene where they're first listening to the tape. The actors are supposed to be like smoking weed. And so, like, they tried it with real weed, and they had to scrap the footage and refilm because they all got, like, completely, like, belligerent, just stoned. So if you could imagine them with the Necronomicon, you know, just sitting there, like, listening to the freaking tape. And then they're just, what?
I know from from a makeup and special effects standpoint, I know that they were using like some of the most base shit that you could use to create the Deadites. And I think that several of the actresses got sick from some of the shit that they were piling on because they would put the makeup on and the weather was not conducive to doing this shooting in this cabin because the cabin was in an enclosed space. When they finally got it closed off and they put up all the lights and it was hot as shit because everything was so tight. And so the makeup they were using wasn't conducive under that heat, so it would just melt. And so for every take, they just had to keep piling this makeup on and recaking it to try and get it to work, which is why, which I think it was a happy accident added to the effect of the Deadites. And I think the contacts that they used were also terrible. So they just had, I mean, I can't even imagine those poor actors, except for Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell, like, I know he had fun as shit.
They made that blood out of Caro syrup, non-dairy creamer, and red food coloring. Like, covered from head to toe every day in corn syrup. Like, that would be so in the heat. Oh my god,
so
terrible. That'd be so bad. But he just stuck it out, man. He killed it. And it's just, have you seen Ash vs. the Evil Dead?
So,
it's great.
Yes.
The first episode, I'm watching it, and I was like, okay, am I watching the right thing? And then you see Bruce Campbell, and it's like, oh my god, it's just like starting from the beginning, because it's the same style, same monster type. It was so cool.
Yeah, everyone who was behind the first films. And it was all continuity. And I love how they kept Army of Darkness in continuity. And but everyone who was behind the original films was behind this one. And of course, picking up 30 years later, Bruce Campbell's still amazing as shit. Still campy acting and the classic Raimi shots of Deadites, and I thought it just so wonderfully done and so much love went into that. But I gotta ask, because Campbell and Raimi and everybody were behind the Evil Dead remake, which recently came, remake, reboot, I'm not 100% sure, but the more recent one that came out. So what do you think? Because I fucking loved that movie and thought it was a brilliant testament or a brilliant homage.
Are you talking about
to
the new one?
Franchise.
I'm talking about the TV show.
Yes. Well, yeah. There was a TV show which was the continuation of the canonical Evil Dead series. So it was Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, and 30 years later, Ash vs. Evil Dead picks up. But there was the Evil Dead remake with, I believe, directed by Alexander Aja.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Oh, yeah, the one that came out, it's like 2013, something?
Yeah.
Something around there.
And I thought the first 5 minutes of that movie with the girl strapped to the basement, that shit had me like just agape, staring at the screen, like, holy shit, what are we walking into? That was the first 5 minutes.
Like that watching this. You always feel like the character on the screen is just going to get murdered, and they never do. And it was just like they somehow survive without a scratch, and then murder 14 people. It's always so intense. They're great.
I always felt like with the remake, it was the way like Sam Raimi would have done it if he had like the budget to like Evil Dead. It's like, okay, I finally have the money.
Yeah.
I can finally like, instead of like, okay, we're gonna have to. This is what I got to make it work. Now I can actually do whatever I want to do. And it came out good. It was good. It was brutal. It was. Oh man!
Oh my god!
It was chainsaw at the end.
That film was so fucking rough. But I tell you, I still every time I think about it, of course, when she gets vomited in her face, this classic Raimi stuff. People getting infected all over the place. When she fucking uses the electric carving knife to cut off her arm, and it's like that was brutal. And of course the tree rape scene. But it still gets me. I'm sitting here watching that, and the girl running in the woods, and it's all quiet and everything, and then they're sitting and they have her tied up in the basement, and everything was just a slow burn moment until she fucking pops up, and I was like, God damn! That scene still gets me. I actually own the movie digitally, and I will on occasion just pop when I'm wanting to write and be creative. I will pop that just first 5 minutes on, just to kind of get myself in the zone. It was so unexpected and just took my breath away. So I really love the remake, and I don't think there has been a misstep in that franchise.
I don't think
only not renewing the TV show for a 4th season, but that was on Stars, not them.
Yeah, we're talking about you, Stars. Talking to you.
If you do the same shit to American Gods, I'm gonna be fucking pissed.
They like to cancel good shit. I'm still pissed about Firefly. Still.
And yet we've got 6 fucking seasons.
First of all, did you just bring up Power, and did you just bring up Firefly? Like, really? What are we trying to open up here? God. It just made me mad and sad all at the same time.
I'm still angry. Still.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, okay, us brown coats are still pissed off over Firefly.
I do think it's funny how it was 15 years ago, 20 or like 15 years ago or something like that. And the TV network, what was it, like Fox? The TV network still had to issue an apology for canceling Firefly. Still, after all these years later.
Still too soon. And the unforgivable act of showing the episodes out of order. Fuck those assholes. Whoever fucked over Joss Whedon, I don't goddamn know, but absolute loss there.
Absolutely. One day we'll get season 2. One day.
Well, there is good news, is that Bruce Campbell recently announced, because I think right now Bruce he's hosting Ripley's Believe It or Not. I love God love Bruce Campbell. I loved him. He was Sam Axe in Burn Notice. Went for 7 seasons. I thought it was brilliant. I've loved the dude. I met him briefly on the set of Serving Sarah many years ago here in Texas. They were shooting out in Fort Worth. Dude's absolutely hysterical. He's funny as hell. He is currently producing with Sam Raimi a new Evil Dead movie.
Ooh, I did not know that.
That was recently announced. So we have another Evil Dead film coming along, which I don't know where that will take place, if it's in the remake zone, in the remake canon, or if it's in the Raimi canon. Because I considered kind of like the Alexandre one to be more of a reimagining. It's not a prequel, it's not a sequel, it's more of a reimagining of the Evil Dead, of the first film. And in actual Evil Dead canon, because we know how Ash vs. Evil Dead ended, and spoiler warning, he woke up out of his coma, or he woke up, in the future, and not knowing how long it was, and all of a sudden, he's in the future, and it's all souped up, and everything's post-apocalypse. But he and Sam Raimi are getting together doing another Evil Dead film, so I don't know where it's going to fall, but I'm excited as hell.
Yeah, I'm already sold.
It's like a Mad Max Evil Dead.
Take my money.
crossover.
So speaking of horror icons like Bruce Campbell, the next film we're talking about has another horror icon who has been in quite a few franchises, right? Tony Todd, who is one of my favorite.
Oh, the legend.
Yes, I love him. And he actually starred in this gem. It came out in October 16th, 1992, right? And it was directed by Bernard Rose. And it is the original Candyman.
Ooh.
You know, and that was actually based off of a short story by Clive Barker.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that is... I like how it kind of played into the... I remember growing up, it was like, what, Bloody Mary, in like the... You say that into the mirror kind of thing.
Don't fucking say it, man. You're going to disappear on the mic. We're not going to know what happened to you.
All of a sudden, it's just like dead air. You just hear like... the mic like tips over, and it's just...
What's up, bitches?
Eugene?
Oh, shit.
Well, he signed off early today, so...
So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but Candyman was just kind of like a ghetto porno, I think. I think it's kind of how that went down. It was like a safe for work smut film.
Clive Barker's got, like I said, we were talking about him before, and he did. I honestly believe that Clive Barker, his contribution to the horror genre was the combination, the kind of meshing of sexploitation, underground sexploitation, and horror. Because his books, all of them, every single story he's written, always has really, really graphic horror and a really, really steamy sex scene. And that the characters always wind up, the main characters always wind up having sex in some very, very, well described. Yeah, I'm a Clive Barker fan. Very, very, intense sexual scene, within all of these horror elements. And Candyman was no different. So,
wow. God, no, it was this. Okay, here's this scary story. In the projects in the early 90s, white woman, black dude. Can we make it any more taboo? like, all right, hold on.
Yes.
Sex. All right, but isn't this supposed to be like a slasher, scary movie? Yeah, whatever. We'll get to the hook thing later, but like, make them touch. Like, it's like the whole movie.
Just ever so softly.
And then there was like super scary parts, and it was like, I don't know what to feel right now. I'm like 10 years old. I'm scared. I'm really confused as to what's happening inside my body right now.
I have an awkward boner right now. I don't know what to do.
That's what you get. That's what you get off anything.
I know, it's awesome. Written. I just love how he was always right on top of the times too. Like anything he just touched was just, let's just poke the sensitive spots of people at this point in time.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
And Tony Todd. I mean, I couldn't think of another actor who could possibly pull that off. Dude, with that voice, and just that one shot, that opening shot when he first appears in the parking garage, for Virginia Madsen's trying to rush to her car, and he's talking to her, the ethereal voice in the air, and then she turns, and then just that one kind of he's shadowed in the front, he's backlit against it, and all you see is, and then the hand cut, that hook comes out, and he's got the big ass fucking coat on. But you can't really make him out, and he's like, yes,
fuck, Blade's here
immediately.
Oh, awesome.
That's not Blade, it's Candyman.
That club music.
Now it makes me sad that they spoiled it with 2 unnecessary sequels, because Candyman
literally watched half of the second one and threw the franchise away. That was it.
Just fucking awful, but at least we have that first one, because I thought one of the more I think it succeeded because it wasn't terribly faithful to the book, to the short story. They changed some stuff for the better. whoever that the director behind that. Who was that? Who directed Candyman?
It was Bernard Rose.
And the choices he made as far as the adaptation goes, adding what needed to be added, cutting out some of the stuff, I thought was brilliantly done. And the whole ending scene, adding in, she saves the child when she's crawling out of the bonfire, was, I thought brilliantly done. So really, really smart moves on that one. Made a very effective horror film. Scared the fuck out of me when I was
terrifying. It's one of those ones that it'll just stick with you forever.
Now, I have to bring up this one point because I was sitting there, I was doing some research about it, right, in terms of the production and stuff like that. They originally wanted Eddie Murphy.
Oh, fuck that.
that was their first go-to, but they couldn't afford it at the time. So they went with Tom.
No, actually, let's explore that. Because Eddie Murphy has never done a legit straight horror film. Okay, Vampire in Brooklyn.
Dr. Dolittle was pretty fucking scary.
Okay, so imagining. Some would say Golden Child was pretty scary. But think of that, from Candyman. I don't fucking know, but to see if he could pull off, because he's a tremendous actor. He really is. And would he have the chops to pull off a character to pull off that character? Now, he's not imposing. He doesn't have that voice that Tony Todd has. He's not fucking tall. He's not built. So could the guy that we saw on in Raw in that pull off something like that? I mean, would it be a stretch? Do you think it's possible? Does he have the chops for it?
I think you just answered your own question, because He I don't know, maybe with, camera angles and lighting and other this kind of stuff, but I've never looked at him and been like, that's scary. Tony Todd is a scary man.
That's a scary dude, yeah. Yeah.
I remember when I saw him in Final Destination in the first one, and it was one scene, and he was scary in that scene, and he was trying to help people.
He was fucking intimidating as shit, and he was the one you needed to fucking listen to. It's Tony, come on, man. You're trying to help these kids, but you're scaring the fuck out of them. You're just no, I have information.
Please,
don't run.
I don't know about you, but I've never seen Tony Todd and the Grim Reaper in the same room at the same time. Because that's what he reminds. Every time you see his face, you're like, oh fuck, somebody's gonna die.
I will say, and this was a nice homage. I don't know if you guys have caught the Scream TV series.
Just started watching it.
So there was season 1 and season 2, which honestly I think you could actually avoid. You could actually avoid, because season 3 is actually the better of all of them. Number 1 in that series, they brought back the Ghostface costume, and 2, it's actually decent. The writing is good, but unfortunately, some of the acting is not great. It's an urban setting, so I say that because it literally takes place in the fucking projects. But Tony Todd is in it, and he plays this ex-vet. He plays this military vet, who runs this junkyard. So, and he bought this junkyard so people would leave him the fuck alone. He just wants to be alone, and drink himself to death and shit like this. But actually walks around carrying a big-ass book in one hand.
They knew what they were doing.
And so we get our Tony Todd with a hook, and we get our big scene, a nice little scene, Tony Todd with a hook against Ghostface. So we got a kind of Candyman versus Ghostface scene in season 3 of the Scream series. But I thought was a nice throw to Tony Todd.
Let me ask you this. Do you think Tony Todd showed up on set with the hook, or do you think the director was like, hey, you're going to hold a hook, and then Tony Todd rolled his eyes harder than anybody ever has in their whole life?
I'm going to guess, and I don't know this for sure, but I'm going to guess that Tony Todd was cast, and he was like, so I'm going to be in this place, right? I'm going to be in this junkyard and all like that. Can I have a hook? Because I'd really like to have.
I really liked the way that felt.
Well, and it wasn't that he. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. He didn't carry a hook. He had a hook for a hand. So it was like a prosthetic hook. Yeah, with that.
Oh, you're
one
saying
of the grasping ones.
in the Scream
only for some reason
he was his
in the. Yeah, in the Scream series, his character actually lost his hand. He actually
so
had
it's
a
just
prosthetic
straight up
hook
Candyman.
that one of the grasping ones. No, but this fucker was like filed down, and it looked sharp as fuck. Like he could use it as a weapon if he wanted to. It was like, really? So I guess if you want to
Candyman
stab
went to
some
like
shit,
Murders
or I don't
Anonymous
know,
and was like, I'm just gonna go chill for the rest of my days out in the junkyard. And then this asshole has to show up, killing teenagers again.
I felt like kill a teenager
Every time. Leave the kids alone, man. I need a good horror movie that just it's somebody going around just murdering politicians. Can we do that?
Oh, that would sell.
That was fucking the U-Bowl films, the Rampage films.
We'll get into the Rampage films when it's time to do so, but
that's more of an action movie, but there was a lot of fucking death. It was basically this one guy representing the 99% going after the 1%.
Hard movie to watch, even before
a hard movie
like
to
all
watch.
School shootings and stuff. Like, yeah. Anyways.
Yeah.
We'll get to that one when it's
now. Well, speaking of adaptations of adapting films for America, on October 18th, 2002, we had The Ring come out. Okay, now you're thinking The Grudge.
Yeah,
that was the sound the chick made in The Grudge. But that's good. But that's interesting because now I saw The Ring in theaters. And that movie scared the shit out of me, but not as bad as The Grudge, the American remake of The Grudge, because The Ring kind of kicked off the slew of the J-horror adaptations.
Yeah.
So because of The Ring, we got The Grudge, Dark Water, I think One Missed Call, Pulse, Mirrors, The Uninvited. I think that terrible Jessica Alba one, The Eye. So there's slew, but The Ring kicked it off for all of us.
Yeah, The Ring was creepy.
And
The
Ring was creepy as shit. That whole, there was that feeling, that dread. They really capitalized. Gore Verbinski, who directed it, really capitalized on the dread, on that feeling, and that creepy fucking psychological video. Because as Naomi Watts is watching it, you're kind of watching it on the big screen. And the kind of camera effects like that, it really was like watching something really fucking trippy and crazy and really, really immersive. Oh my god, immersive horror. That one creeped the absolute shit out of me. And of course, the girl coming out of the fucking TV and shit. Fuck that noise.
Yeah.
Samara will always be an everlasting image.
I see her in my bathroom sometimes. And, when I get soap in my eyes and I gotta rinse it out real fast, and I'm afraid when I open my eyes, she's gonna be in the bathroom.
It's rare that you actually get a jump scare where the villain is like already in frame. Usually the villain disappears and then all of a sudden they appear out of nowhere and that's a jump scare. But when she crawls out of the TV and stands up and then all of a sudden she just appears like right in front of him, I jumped every time.
There was that when they do the after Samara kills the first person, when you don't really see what happened to him, and that was actually freaky as shit when they open up the closet and they show.
Oh yeah,
that's when you know you're like, this is gonna be rough.
And then the wave of J-horror adaptations that came after that, and while The Ring was creepy as shit and very, very effective and just haunting psychologically, a haunting film. The Grudge is the one that really scared the fucking shit out of me. That movie was fucking scary.
The girl moved and just the whole thing was just.
That's where you get that whole thing. But
I just got the chills thinking about
what was it when the detective? There's that scene when the detective is watching the security camera, trying to figure out what the hell is going on, and the girl's running down the hallway, and he's like watching, and then all of a sudden, the ghost comes into frame and does that stagger walk down the hallway, and like the kind of screen is kind of going in and out and kind of browning, and then she walks out of frame, and then the camera returns to normal.
That was weird.
and you're like, okay, you just gotta fucking go, and then all of a sudden that black starts filling up the screen. I was like, oh, you gotta be fucked up.
Oh fuck.
That, and then those eyes, those eyes just open up, and I was like, oh no, we're done. We're fucking done.
Hey,
that's it. I'm like looking
honey,
behind me
I know,
right now,
dude.
like in my
Creepy.
chair.
All right, honey, don't worry about the meth. I'm gonna be awake for 3 days anyways.
Can't sleep. Clown will get me. Can't sleep. Clown will get.
Oh,
but it all kicked off with the ring. Naomi Watts, Samara, 7 days.
Stuff to do on Saturday.
my in-laws are coming on Sunday, so I'll be good for that.
Take me.
So and it really got that kind of introduced me to. I would say the ring really introduced me into J-horror, and that took me into K-horror, Korean horror like that, and then that's when you started getting into shit like Audition and the Happiness of the Kataguris, Ichi the Killer, shit like that. So, but all started with the ring. We started getting our American adaptations, and they pretty much all sucked. But Ring and the
how
Grudge.
about Shudder? Did you ever see that one?
I thought I liked the Japanese version
was very good.
I really did. The Japanese version was more effective.
I liked the
I
American version. I thought it was well done. I thought it was well done in the way that the characters played off, because they had done this bad thing and they tried to play it off and it came out. I thought it was really good. That was one of my favorite J-horror movies for sure.
Yeah, I thought Dark Water was okay. I loved Jennifer Connelly. But I thought there was something kind of lost in it. One Missed Call was terrible. The Eye was terrible. Mirrors was bad. But Pulse, and some people say I actually liked Pulse, and I thought there was some good stuff in Pulse. They didn't need to continue that. Pulse 2 was god awful and just trying to add to the mythology of this. But I'm also a really big fan of Kristen Bell, and I like seeing her play away from Veronica Mars and start to really kind of open up and take on some more meaty roles. It was just a horror film, but I thought she was very effective, and I think it was a good, effective little creepy film. This shit is coming in and people are killing themselves, and you can't fucking stop it. And I thought, okay.
And it's interesting because you start seeing how J-horror is starting to affect some of these other movies that have come out recently, like Hereditary, that kind of that slow burn creepiness to it. Because it has kind of the same style of lighting, a lot of muted colors. Like when you're watching The Ring, it has a lot of dark blues, blacks, all this other kind of stuff with kind of a gray tone to it, and that's pretty much the color scheme that Hereditary has.
Oh yeah, the utilizing the palette to utilizing the overall palette to be evocative, to evoke the emotion of a scene or the emotion of specific characters. Yes, brilliantly done. And you can see the wave of inspiration that came that J-horror has had on American horror ever since the success of The Ring and the success of The Grudge, and how those kind of the deeper psychology of horror, because Japanese horror has always gone deep into the roots of culture and the psychology of the people involved, and made it much, much deeper than your typical slasher film, than Friday the 13th, or the typical jump scare horror, and where that slow burn psychology, the slow burn, the deep rooted horror, the evil comes from within and stuff like that. Where you can't run from it, you can't defeat it. It's there. You can only hope to try and contain it or outlast it. It follows. I think. I think It Follows is a very good example.
Okay, so you keep talking about this stuff, and it just every criteria hits this movie that absolutely broke my brain when I was younger, called Shrooms.
Oh my god!
I was absolutely not mentally ready for that movie when I watched it, and I'm being dead serious. I saw this movie and it broke my psyche, and I think that movie actually messed me up mentally. in just a very small way, and it's just like little things. And like you think about the Ring and the video, and that like kind of reminds me of this movie, but they just tear you down psychologically, and you've got a million ideas of what's going on, and then they come from behind and stick you in the back of the neck with a guess what, you were wrong. And it was like, oh my god. And then you're just done with the movie, and it's like I need to go cry, I think.
I either cry, I
don't know.
I don't know yet.
I never would have thought that a multiple clips of a falling ladder would be fucking creepy, because it's just one of the things that pops out to me is this rickety ladder kind of dancing and then swaying and then falling down. I'm like, that's just, there's something really fucking creepy about that. And then when you find out, and then just similar to Shrooms with its kind of like mind-bending insanity, it was like when you realize, it kind of hits you like a truck when you realize that the well is the top of the well.
Yeah.
Is the opening of the well.
Yeah, when you see the lid slide over. Yeah.
I was like, oh my god. Oh, spoiler alert if anybody was listening.
If you haven't seen the
Ring. If you haven't seen The Ring, it's been 2002.
Yeah, it's too late now. And like I remember like when the trailer came out, and like me and my friends went to the website, like the ringthemovie.com, and all it did was just play the
video, on the website.
Like it had no links, no casting or production notes or anything like that. It was just boom. And I remember it cut to that shot of the well, and it just held on it. And we turned it off.
No fucking context whatsoever. Just check it out. This is what you're walking into. I think you get a sense for this shit is gonna be fucking real after Naomi Watts' character, after she watches the film, and she pulls the fly off the screen.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Oh, no. Put it. It knows you know.
Oh, shit
it
got
knows
real.
Run.
It will find you.
Oh, good.
Okay, good time.
Yeah, that one twisted me up a bit. Yeah, now I'm
looking behind me.
This portrait
the
of
reflection
H.P.
in my TV.
Here in my office, I have this portrait of H.P. Lovecraft sitting right next to me, and it's always so fucking creepy. Now I'm creeped out from both. I'm from behind and from the side. So yeah, I got too much creepy shit in my office.
Yeah, I got cutouts of it's Captain Kirk and Spock, right? Up in the window, right? Like full life size cutouts and stuff like that. So every once in a while, it looks like there's somebody standing in the window.
Yes, screw that.
Well, I've got a big ass television mounted on the wall behind me, and it's off right now. But I have this big screen that I do gaming and other stuff on, and it's just like, so I'm fully aware that when I'm looking at this computer and I'm talking to the microphone, I have this big ass TV that's behind me. And I just know one day the thing is just going to come on. It's just going to come on behind me. It's just going to be like that blue screen, and then static.
No.
And then
No. You're gonna.
Nope, moving out.
Your computer's gonna go into sleep mode. You're gonna look into the black screen of your computer, see the reflection of the TV, and see like 14 dead children standing in the room with you. And then you're gonna turn around, and there's gonna be one standing right there, and then. Cutscene.
Now we're constantly going to be on edge listening for one
just
of our
completely
mics.
Just
I know.
And see, that happens. It's
Alex?
Just thump.
Hello?
We have him now.
Skitter.
Join us.
Okay, over on a different note, so that I can actually sleep tonight. Hopefully somehow. We have another movie which also has Tony Todd in it, stars him. Horror icon. But we have it's kind of the remake of the 1968 movie which you talked about earlier already. We have Night of the Living Dead, directed by Tom Savini. Right?
Tom Savini.
Tom Savini.
Yeah.
Still, the screenplay still written by George A. Romero. Starring Tony Todd as the iconic Ben character.
And you couldn't do better.
Yeah.
I would follow him into a zombie apocalypse in a heartbeat.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's very few people. There's very few characters I would follow, but he is one of them.
Yes, when it actually goes down, I will find Tony Todd, and that motherfucker's gonna look at me. He's like, "What the fuck are you doing, following me around?" It's like,
Who are
man,
you?
It's
Bitch,
it's
I know
you.
you're gonna survive.
You are the man.
So, let's go. Where we go, Walmart or?
Yeah, definitely Walmart, Captain Woods. Yeah.
Now, I'm torn on the 90 version of Night of the Living Dead because I think the black and white that Romero shot in 1968, he shoots black and white. Color is way too expensive to do at the time. So, but the black and white really, I think, was the most effective part of that. And was a brilliant choice as far as to really emphasize the casting choice of having a black protagonist who's the one in charge, who knows who's the cool-headed one, and the white people are all running around screaming like fucking idiots, and he's the one who's going to carry us through this. Now, the black and white was so important in 1968. The colorized version, 1990, I'm torn. I think in some ways takes away.
And I agree with you. I think even though like the 1990s version has a kind of like a higher production value, I like the kind of like the bare bones feel of it. The house feels abandoned that they go to. The gas station, it feels abandoned to. And the black and white kind of helped cover up some of the effects kind of thing. Like, you know, watching like the 1990s where I can't remember his name, he gets his head bashed onto the tombstone or the gravestone, right?
At the very beginning.
At the very beginning. Yeah. To me, it worked in the 1968 version. Like, boom, okay, I can see that. And if you watch the 1990s version where it cuts away to the dummy and the dummy's head kind of bounces, kind of like I see what you're going for, but kind of thing.
So despite the brilliance of Tony Todd, and I think being an honest to goodness homage to George Romero, and Romero was still involved.
Yes.
And you know, even he has and he signed off on it. Are we looking at another kind of remake that, while entertaining, a lot of fun, and a nice revisit, was ultimately unnecessary? Because it did kick off like the revamped franchise of Night of the Living Dead. Then you got like Night of the Living Dead 2, Night of the Living Dead 3, Return of the Living Dead, all this kind of stuff.
I mean, I can see why they made it in terms of kind of revamping it for a newer generation, because, you know, a lot of people probably haven't gone back and watched the 1968 version, or they'll watch it for a little bit and go, oh, I don't want to watch this black and white. And, you know, it's too, you know, low production quality. I don't want to get into it, or they'll kind of miss the message. So I understand why they made the 90s version, but, you know, just being the horror fan I am, I think the 68 version, I think it works. It works better.
I think so too.
Concur. So,
you know,
out of the whole series, Night of the Living Dead, Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, all the Deads, what was your favorite? And that could be from start to the newest one.
I think I say. Okay, of all of them, my absolute favorite is Night of the Living Dead, the original 1968
Okay,
version.
I think I'd probably have to agree with you on that one.
Yeah, from if you want to talk about kind of like the older films, I would do the 1968 version. In terms of newer films, I would probably have to do Dawn of the Dead, the Zack Snyder one.
Oh yeah, the Snyder, and I was actually I would go there second as well as the Snyder remake,
Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead. I think it was more effective than Romero's version. Whereas Romero's version, I think he relied. I think he was relying too much on the message of what he was trying to get across. Satirizing human consumption and consumerism and just zombie-like behavior when it comes to slavish devotion to things. I like that as an underpinning, but not the main, not like a main focus. Whereas like he kind of beats you over the head with his whole message there. Whereas I think Dawn of the Dead, you still have that, with some very simple hints. You have the whole montage that they're stuck in a mall, they're surrounded by zombies, yet they all fell into routines that they were familiar with. And it was like, oh wow, even the situation, it just shows the predictability of human beings. In any given situation, you'll always fall into your routines if given enough time. And I liked that. I liked having that, but I liked having more of the focus on the dead and their fight for survival against them. So I liked the way Zack Snyder took.
And I like the fact that it's a hidden message of perceived value, how we put so much value on certain things. You know, they're in this mall, they have all these expensive stores and all this other kind of stuff. And then when the zombie apocalypse happens, everything in there that doesn't pertain to food or water or your basic necessities
becomes worthless. It's just in the way.
All those clothes.
Like trip over shit.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, you have this dress somebody would have bought, you know, paid $500 and a couple months ago, and now it's worthless as a piece of fabric.
It's nothing now. There was an iconic line in that film when one of the security guards that they had locked up was talking. The younger dude, it might have been Ben, I think was his name in the movie, but he just looks at one of the other security guards when he's talking or something. He goes, "Shit rolls downhill." And it kind of just set like the premise for just like the rest of you're fucked and shit rolls downhill. So hold on. It's gonna get worse.
And how fast things can go south.
Well, at least the '90 remake gave us Tony Todd in the horror genre, and 2 years later,
it was a good
Candyman.
Backdrop. I think it was a good transition into his, current fame, I guess, notoriety, if you will.
We got to see him as a good guy. Okay, get behind him, root for him, the good guy. And then he's a bad guy. And you're like, well, shit, I was just rooting for you too.
Damn it, I don't know how to feel about you anymore, Tony Todd, but keep going, because you're a badass.
And if you ever get a chance, check out his episode of The X-Files, because he was really, really good at that.
Okay, I'm trying to sleep tonight, all right, after everything we've been talking about.
No, but speaking of X-Files, we got some birthdays this week. We got Chris Carter, the creator of X-Files. His birthday was October 13th, 1956. And he was a genius. But so happy birthday to Chris Carter, creator of the X-Files. He did a couple other shows like Millennium, Harsh Realm.
Harsh Realm.
Back in the late 90s.
Oh, I thought Harsh Realm was excellent. That was good.
It was absolutely ahead of its time. If that came out now, I think it would be just as fantastic. It'd be probably a little better. But genius director there.
Absolutely.
Coming in, he tried all sorts of stuff with the X-Files too, like crossovers with like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That was just kind of shot down, and he had a great run.
Well, we did get the Lone
Gunman was great,
which I thought was good, but I think that the studio lost faith, and therefore everyone else.
It was right at the end of the
'90s
when everything was kind of like
I don't think it was
just switching over. It was just a busy time in show business, just kind of pumping out as much as you can to try to make as much money. But I thought it was cool that he kind of stuck with his thing in the X-Files, and obviously.
And we recently got we got the two new editions. We got season 10 and season 11 as small events. I honestly don't know where they're going to go from there. We can talk about the X-Files for like hours.
Oh yeah, of course.
And everything that the X-Files has inspired beyond that, the shows that we wouldn't have if it weren't for the X-Files. So, but yeah, brilliant idea, and I'm glad that he's hung with it. We could have done without X-Files. I Want to Believe. I thought that was kind of unnecessary.
We don't have to talk about that.
Yeah,
but definitely happy birthday, Chris Carter.
Happy birthday.
And we have another birthday this week. Udo Kier. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. He's German. Udo Kier, character actor in over 200 films, was born October 14th, 1944. So happy birthday, Udo Kier. He was born just towards the end of World War II in Cologne, Germany. And when he was born, like moments after he was born, the hospital that he was born in was bombed.
Okay.
Oh wow.
And he and his mother had to be pulled from the wreckage.
Can you just explain this to me? Because he was born in 1944, so that means in 1943, like the peak of World War II, just in Germany, somebody was like, "We should probably fuck," and then now they've got this baby being born while they're getting freaking blitzkrieg. Just, are you surprised that the hospital got bombed?
I mean, with the Allies' carpet bombing strategy, like, yeah, it's probably
1943. The Luftwaffe is coming. Let's just fuck.
It was probably like every day at that point. Like, the kids are going to school, bomb hits the school. Well, our classroom got bombed today.
Shit, just move it over to the grocery store.
Oh, actually,
yeah.
So if he was born in October 14th, so technically that makes him a new. Would that be? Is that could he have been a New Year's Eve present?
Celebrating the new year.
Yeah, it would have been
celebrating the New
Year.
Year's.
Like the New Year.
I'm thinking he was. I'm thinking Udokir was a New Year's Eve gift.
Maybe they're like, this is the year we'll finally win the war.
God, now I want to go back and see what kind of battles were going on at that time. What was the thought process there? Like, what? Man, I almost stepped on 3 mines on the way home. I saw 3 people get executed. We should probably just get naked. You know what? You're right.
You know when you might die tomorrow.
Into this shit.
But this guy has had a storied career. Anybody who's seen the movie has most likely seen him. He's worked with Lars Van Trier. He's worked with Gus Van Sant. Pretty much Dario Argento. He's a staple in horror films. I know most people probably recognize him from the first Blade film. He was Dragon Eddie, the vampire gets his teeth pulled out by Frost. But he's had a tremendous career, tremendous character actor. From 1966 all the way to present day, he is still going strong. Done voice work. I think he did voice work in the Command and Conquer series.
Oh,
the Command and Conquer Red Alert 2.
Red Alert.
And Yuri's Revenge. Yeah, he was the voice of Yuri, and he did some work on Call of Duty as well. Did some voice work on that. But yeah, he's amazing character actor. I always enjoy what he brings to the screen. That accent is so perfect, and bless him. I hope he keeps going. I hope we get more out of him. But yeah, happy birthday, character actor extraordinaire Udo Kier.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
All right, then. Well, we wrap another episode of Week in Horror. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, please hit that subscribe button, subscribe to SoundCloud, and also like us and follow us on our Facebook page, facebook.com/weekinhorror, as well as all our other platforms. We have a new website. Click Learn More on our Facebook page, and you can see some other stuff there. So listen to us on SoundCloud, Facebook, and this is Eugene signing off.
I'm Alex signing off.
This is JL. Thank you so much. We will see you next week.